Hello and welcome back to the Quake Pro League. Our last game of the night tonight, Harry. Still 3 maps to go. Rapha is going to be back in the Surfer facing off versus the Brazilian Bulldozer in nosfa. Now, the interesting fact is, obviously, we know what Rapha can do. It always becomes the question of how well will the opponent face versus him, because Rapha at this point has basically transcended even being a human, is now just, you know, again, like he just exists purely to play Quake because this man is just ridiculous. We saw that in Poland, didn't drop a single map, just absolutely demolished everyone in his way to be able to take victory and get his name inscribed on the belt. Now back in the comfort of his own home as well, where he can have his Jimmy Jams on, have his comfy little slippers on. I'd be even more scared playing against him, Harry.
Yeah, it just makes matters worse, really, doesn't it? It's just you think it could be a nail biter, but we know what Rafa's like. I don't think he's even dropped a map or stage. I'm just going to try and double check it because I'm pretty sure he's actually not dropped a map at all. But don't quote me on that just yet. But yeah, you can see from the circumstances Nosfa's in, it's like he's got the huge amount of aggression, especially from the LATAM scene. That's what they're known for. He's got the
Hmm.
aim skill to back that up in any way he wants to. It's just the problem he has is just he can be a little bit predictable in some of the movement and map positioning he does. And the problem is with someone like Rapha, he'll download you either within a minute or 10. It just depends what kind of player you are in terms of like your rotations and what you want to do. But I'm hoping he doesn't figure out nosfa too quickly. But even then, nosfa's had a remarkable showing. Like from what he's been doing in stage 3, like a completely different person. He's been very strong, and I'm hoping he continues to show that progression.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. It's good to actually see him start climbing his way up the leaderboards again because, as you said, he is a very, very good player, world class, and it's good to see him again start to prove that. Let's have a look then at the veto for this one before we get into it. It is our final matchup of the night, Rapha versus nosfa, and it seems like Ruins of Sarnath will be the opening map with a Strog and Pika pick for Rapha and a Ranger coming through for nosfa.
Yeah, we're seeing that. I think nosfa's going to be okay with the map pick so far. It's normally good on quite. You could say maps like Ruins and Molten is kind of some of his better maps, but at least he's got Ruins to start off things, so he can kind of sort of ease himself into it as we go forward. But like I said, it's got the range and the Strog, and then even the second one, Vale. Nosfa has his ups and downs on that, depending on the circumstances. So I'd like to see how Rafa can actually control the aggression of Nosfa on that. And Blood Covenant, very standard. With the Visor versus Nyx picks, don't get me wrong, Nosfa probably has the advantage in terms of countering the Nyx. But even then, like I think you need a lot more than just champion countering at this point in time, as Rafa is very good on Blood Covenant, but can be quite good on Veil as well. But Ruins, I think Nosfa needs to at least try and get off the gates quick and hot. And if he can't, then it's going to be the struggle bus all the way to the end of the series.
Yeah. That is really going to be the case, right? nosfa basically has to go out absolutely swinging and trying to set the pace of the game the entire time and can't give any respect because otherwise Rapha will just start to dismantle him. That is pretty much what happens each and every time we see someone face off versus Rapha. Plays for Team Liquid and normally ends up turning the opponents into Liquid. So let's see if nosfa can do some damage here for the Black Hawk clan tonight.
Well, I'm not going to lie, you definitely aren't wrong there, but I'm sure he can do something because Nosfa has all the ingredients he needs. It's just his strategic values and how he wants to try and do certain things across the map. He has the fundamentals and the mechanics down to a T. It's just a matter of how. The problem is he's got the speed, he's got the agility and everything he needs to create a fast-paced matchup. But sometimes speed isn't everything. You can't just force out mistakes constantly all the time. It's not going to happen. Rafa, especially a player like him, or maybe to hang in the North American scene, aren't going to let you get away with such easy mistakes. They're not going to make those major mistakes to let you get away with such small things here and there. So Nosfa needs to really keep his guard up and be really careful if he does go for any quick flanks or rotation, especially on a map like Ruins. But the good thing for him is the fact that Nosfa has got a map he probably more prefers out of most of the maps in the map pool, but we'll have to see how things will go throughout this entire map as well as the series.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it does seem like we are ready for this one to kick off here over on Ruins of Sarnath. as we're going to be slipping into the game very shortly. Of course, nosfa is on the Ranger, Rapha is the Strog, and Pika. Interesting fact is that, as much as the Hang is touted as the godfather of the Strog and Pika in current day Quake champions, Rapha is also still very proficient on this champion. It's not one you should be sticking your nose up at, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him doing some damage right out the gate. But we are in. Let's see how this is going to go. As Rapha looks to try and kick us off. Pika coming out instantly, trying to maximize his use of that one over the course of the game. It seems he gets quite a nice amount of damage done early on to nosfa and forced him to deviate from his plan of trying to duel to instead go fast for that mega.
It definitely has got to go fast, but it looks like it will be the case as Rapha will be dropping to try and contest that heavy, and I think nosfa does have a feeling he could be there, but he will do now from that rocket. Decides to back away. Rapha does have the map control he desires, but look at this, nosfa being so aggressive. He was hoping to see if he can catch him off guard a little bit. Ben getting the mega, so that was a good play from him. But then again, the retaliation from Rapha with that rail has just been remarkable. So he managed to restack, has a feeling of where he's going to be, and this could be the turning point now. nosfa surely is going to get taken down here. That's not going to help for just one health orb, as Rapha managed to get that first frag.
Rapha picks himself up into the game with the early frag. It's a nice way to start things off. Looking to try and see what more he can get going for himself, though, as he's firing out these warning shots early, looking to do a little bit of damage. Gets the heavy pickup as well. LG comes out and he's absolutely swinging with it. Overthrows nosfa as he pumps him with far too many volts, striking him with a lightning there to take him down.
Yeah, that was quite peculiar. It looked like nosfa maybe didn't have any other weaponry in his arsenal. He only had that rail, it seemed like, but I could be wrong. It's just a bit slow switching up on those weapons. But so far, Rapha gets another heavy. He's just keeping him at bay. nosfa with a very poor stack again. And needs to try and get away and fight. But it doesn't matter anyway, as Rapha managed to clean up, get the mega as well. And just making matters worse, so he has to be careful of what he needs to be doing next. nosfa's not having a good time, you could say, during the first 2.5 minutes of this game.
No, it's not going ideally for him. This is an awkward fight, and luckily he actually will be able to use it to his advantage as he swings wide with the rail and punishes them, taking down Rapha. But Rapha, he's going to be coming straight back into it, isn't he? He won't be dilly-dallying around whatsoever, as he's doing a lot of damage early on, being able to get those connections back onto his opponent. And now it's just a matter of time going forward. Starts to stalk his prey once again, sending himself up at the elevated angle, knows the location of nosfa, tracks him down. LG is out, and nosfa is out of time in that life.
He returns but tries to get away straight away. That was a nice rocket, but then again, nosfa was waiting for him to jump up to push for that mega, and he had done anyway, so at least he can try and get something on the board. nosfa has to stock. What can he do here as he's trying to clean him as much as he can? 68 HP, 45 now, as Rapha's just barely trying to stay alive. Managed to do so nicely, but then again, nosfa isn't in a great spot either. It's in a similar predicament, but it looks like he'll leave him be for the time and wait for that mega as nosfa does pick up the heavy.
Getting a couple of shots off to the LG there, being able to tickle him, and he will fall down. 5-2. Rapha already, as per usual, building himself a nice, solid early foundation. He's got the ballast out. He's got the cement out, Harry. He's already dug the hole. He's smoothing it over. He's building himself a foundation that lives on.
He definitely has done, and both his players are so weak, but nosfa Repeaks with that rail. Clean things up nicely. But then again, I'm quite surprised. The scoreline is a lot closer than we may have intended to assume. And already Rapha, again, gets that rail and cleans him up once more with the seconds to make matters worse for nosfa. And now it's 6-3 in favour, but it could be 7-3 depending on if he can a nice clean LG, and he does. Nicely done. 5 minutes left for nosfa to try and get 4 frags back.
The shots are damaging, the constant ticks, everything was hitting. And Rapha will be able to finish. Looking for a little bit more, but it is the nails that pack a punch for nosfa, taking down Rapha at least into that encounter. 5 minutes and 30 have gone by. They're both on fairly even footing when it comes to the stack. nosfa, nice moves to get himself into a good position to try and take the fight once more though. LG constantly going out, hoping to tickle down Rapha, but he can't quite get the shots off. And it's a struggle with a dire orb as well. He is poking and prodding from a distance, but it's a very odd encounter from the both of them. Ooh.
It's very difficult to rail from that spot, especially if your opponent's giving you just a pixel of a character model to even try and shoot at. But as I'm saying, that nosfa has been very clean with some of these rails, but it just needs to be careful in this next moment, and he managed to clean them up nicely. So far, nosfa does have the opportunity to try and come back from this, but as I'm saying, that gets one. He's going to try and go for a second. Doesn't matter. The orb comes through, and only 2 more to equalize.
The LG is out, but that's not going to be ideal whatsoever, as we do see the Pika crushing in the skull of nosfa, taking him down, and Rapha is back on top with a 9-6 scoreline at the minute. 7 minutes into the first map here, the Strog and Pika is peeling further and further ahead. Railgun coming out as well. Early adjustment. The tag coming through, and the LG to finish, putting nosfa to bed once more into this matchup, Harry.
That's right indeed, but the MG coming out of nosfa trying to get any kind of damage done possible. The fakery comes out from Rapha, returns, and does the damage necessary. 11-6 now in favour of Rapha, and it seems like he is not holding back. He's only slowly starting to get warmed up. And this is the Rapha we do not want to see, well, especially for nosfa's screen. As Pika comes out to see what he's up to, gets the damage done, has the info he requires. But the question is, how is he going to execute it? Is he going to just drop down onto the rail, or is he going to drop down behind from the jump pad of the hourglasses? But has decided to leave it momentarily. Decides to stack up, but it will be trying to contest that mega. But nosfa's not having any of it. He really wants to try and make something of this, which he won't. Rapha just barely manages to stay alive. But nosfa needs 6 more frags, and it's going to be very difficult to get anything going here.
Pika coming through once again, looking to try and punish as they fight for control towards the heavy room. Up the bounce pad, but straight down into a shallow grave as nosfa will finish off Rapha there. 1 minute and 30 seconds is all that remains for the both of them. So anything they've got left in the tank, they need to bring to the forefront now and really give it their all going forward. nosfa, he's on the hunt, starts to reposition. Move his way around quite elegantly, looking for a potential opener. He does not have a lot of time here, so he needs to chain these frags together, and he's not even had the opportunity to net a single kill just yet, as Rapha, lighting up the skies with a lightning gun, will cut him down and leave him lifeless on the ground. Surely not a follow-up frag off the back of the Pika, unfortunately not, as nosfa did take it down and barely get away alive, but speak too soon, as he has fallen again, left in a watery grave by the heavy.
Doubled the scoreline of nosfa Rapha now. Trying to get the extra frags on the board. Missed rocket and that last rail. But even though the damage has been done, so to say the least, it doesn't really matter too much here. But then again, nosfa did put up a good fight. We did see some, a glimmer of hope now and again to see a comeback from nosfa. But Rapha does what he does best, keeps it easy for you to start with, and then after he fills you out, it just causes more trouble and more mayhem here. As there's 10 seconds left remaining. Rapha's only on 70 HP. Nosfa managed to finish things off. We'll try and go for the spawn, but it won't be, as Rapha takes the first map 14-8. Probably a little bit of a better scoreline than what we expected previously.
Yeah, there you go. That's the way that one is going to go down. 14-8. Rapha will win it in the end. Some good moments there from nosfa. He had the drive. Definitely still has the skill inside of himself, but it is always going to be an incredibly hard task when you play against Rapha at the best of times, and he does walk away as the victor there on Sarnath. We're going to be moving into Vale. After that, obviously, is our second map, which is a Keel and a Galena game.
And this will be another interesting one. It was hard because you saw from then that first map, there was ways nosfa could have come back. He was caught off guard quite a few times. That was from the aggression, but we didn't see as much fast-paced aggression for what we normally saw. We saw more of a methodical approach from nosfa, which was a little bit peculiar. But maybe he's realised that it doesn't work too well against certain opponents, and Rapha is just one of them. So the best thing about that was the fact that he became less predictable in certain situations. And I spoke about that earlier before the series started. I said, his aim's great, speed is great, the pace of how he controls the game is brilliant, but it just can be a little bit more predictable. But he definitely was a lot less predictable and more unorthodox going through the course of the stage. But it doesn't matter anyway, because going into the second map, which will be on Vale, this is where, he needs to be careful on certain circumstances, to get caught off guard, especially with the champion picks, because again, we see another kill.
Yeah. And Rapha, he loves a good kill pick. He's done it in the past many times. He's one of the, the only real pros that when he does it, we don't question it too much because it has become normality, really. Galena instead for nosfa. Vale, as we said, it's got a lot of awkward angles, lots of closed corridors, choke points, doors that open that block your line of sight. So for Galena, it's the dream, really. There's so many positions where you can place a totem to, if not be a major nuisance, to do a lot of damage, or place them quite sneakily if you're trying to go for that overstack. So both champions going to be pretty proficient here. Obviously, the pineapples work well on a map like this as well, Harry.
We've seen a lot of kill over the course of the last few matches, especially this week. I think this must be the fourth one now going into it. But Galena, we haven't seen as much of, and the turn placements will be important. Does it leave it on the rockets or the telly to go forward? But look at this, already Rapha's going straight in with the aggression. But will he continue? He is tempted and managed to clean things up. Or a way to start things off as Rapha gets the first frag on the board.
Great way to start off the game there, firing out the warning rockets, and does take down nosfa, ripping him a new one, as he'll be able to overthrow him early on. Both of them now the frag apiece underneath their belt. nosfa almost getting that overstack up as well. 2 totems placed, but Rapha, he knows the rule. Find the totems and shatter them. Do not give a Galena an opportunity to get overstack.
Here come the fireworks.
Rapha playing extremely patient here, making sure that there's no rotation necessary for nosfa as he backs off for the time being, but knows exactly where he's going. He's just trying to be careful on his whereabouts. As nosfa does have the slight advantage with the stack, and saying that, Rapha has regained what he needed, but it's managed to get the first rocket off. He's going to try and go for the second, which he does. Gets the first rail, but it's going to leave him for now. And try and restack back up.
Oh, Rapha with a shotty. Looking to try and punish as he's wilding out here, zooming in with this big bad boy. And he lays the opponent to rest. nosfa straight back into bed, pull the covers over, then sleep for a couple more hours. As Rapha is on a tear right now, as per usual. LG comes out as well as they're fighting over control of the heavy, but it's already been taken. And nosfa is getting taken for a ride, Harry. Rapha, it's only 2 minutes in, he's got 4 frags, and he shows no signs of slowing down.
He's not at all now. nosfa's trying to do everything he can, but Rapha is just doing such a good job keeping him at bay, putting the pressure on Spawn every single time without fail. Don't get me wrong, he goes through one of the totems, but probably done himself a favour at the same time, just taking him down. But it is to be expected through a lot of these portals. But now that Rapha has the high ground and the map control, the question is, where is nosfa going to come from? He will be coming from the launch pad on the heavy side, and decides to back away for the time being. Rapha massively stacked. He could get caught off guard again, which he has done, and clean things up. And it's now 6-1 in favour of Rapha.
3 minutes into the game. Oh, nosfa done again. 2 frags a minute right now for Rapha, as he's hitting a pretty damn good average. And he's looking to try and bloat that as much as he can. If he wins this one, he'll be winning the series. And then it's just a matter if he can go for a full 3-0. Of course, it's still very early draws. There is an opportunity for nosfa to get back in the game. But with the rate Rapha's taking it, it is going to be pretty worrying. Oh, nosfa doesn't even get an opportunity to get himself the heavy there. He is knocked straight past it, sent flying. And Rapha is looking for an 8th frag.
He certainly is, and he should get it, and yes, he does, in clean fashion with a great stack. And he's just keeping that rocket control the entire time. He's faking things out, still playing it quite passive. He's going to try and rotate behind him, but it doesn't fall for it. nosfa just goes straight here, and he desperately needed that rocket. But my word, the speed of Rapha just then to try and catch nosfa. But it doesn't matter anyway. Managed to get the lights, managed to get the mega. But at least he stopped a little bit from that totem, as Rapha is just on his tail. It's got the height advantage once more. nosfa knows he was not in a good spot and has to back away for the time being. But at least that's another totem gone. And I feel like nosfa's only got one left here. But it's known on Vale to, you don't really get 3 turns up on Vale or any of the smaller maps anyway. They're just there to feed information and regain health when you can.
Ooh, plasma coming through, lots of damage being done. The rockets as well, leaving nosfa within an inch of his death. But he will eventually go down, slain once again by Rapha, 9-0. This is pretty damn deadly with the way the game has been going thus far. And it is worrying stuff, really. Hopefully there's something that can be done for nosfa, as he's just taking it, Harry. And it's happened again.
Just making matters worse. Rapha is a dangerous man on any server on Quake, and he's continuing to show that as we go forward. 10-0 with 4.5 minutes left remaining. nosfa now, bless him, trying to do everything he can to try and catch him off guard and try and finish him up. But it looks like nosfa's going to get away for the time being. But you can see Rapha was after that rail. Could go for the second one, but decides to back off. But nosfa very aggressive here, considering they're both on the same stack. Still doesn't get the frag, but at least that way, trying to keep nosfa on the 0 mark, even though he did have a frag earlier. We'll have to see what he can do here. Takes out the totems, and Rapha, for the time being, keeping good control of the items and the map.
Fire in the hole.
My life saves you.
Dog's going out. Oh, nosfa with a railgun. Starting to do some disgusting things once again, as he is punishing the opponent. Finally.
I come bearing gifts.
Is it going to be sustainable, though? Obviously, 4 more minutes left on the clock, and it's a trade frag. Like kids on a school ground, Harry, they are trading. Trading cards.
They certainly are indeed, as he will just barely manages to get the frag whilst getting the mega. nosfa only had probably about half a second left to wait there. But it just wasn't to be, as we've got 10 more seconds for the heavy, and Rapha now is just waiting patiently for his Q to try and finish him up. But nosfa just every single time not having any, just trying to fight from any disadvantageous situation. And Rapha survives on 12 HP, will restack and get the Mega soon enough.
12-2. This game is very one-sided, and it's only getting more bloated as time goes by. Rapha just having an absolute mad one. He's on a session, Harry.
He definitely is on the sesh. This guy's just an absolute lunatic no matter what map you play on. He has the answer for everything, and his rails are just making matters worse. He's going to go for the third, and he doesn't, but I think the damage has been done. Is he going to try and clean up for the LG? Will he be able to, though? Yes, of course he will. 3 HP left remaining. But can nosfa at least try and refrag? No, he can't, but bless him, he did his best. But his best wasn't good enough as he went full on attack to try and get the rockets to clean him up. But Rapha for now, a reasonable stack here to try and go for one more, try and add to his tally. But nosfa's LG was looking quite good then.
Rapha 15-2. Can he make it 16-2? As he knocks nosfa up into the air and will be able to take him straight down to an early demise, removing him from the equation there. As he's launching out, trying to punish with his pineapples. Not a dream scenario whatsoever. Nosfa coming out quite aggressively as he's trying to push in, both of them low, but again, Rapha gets the frag. Final 40 seconds of the game now. And surely it just depends on if there is any fuel left in the tank for Rapha, really, of how many extra frags he wants to close this one out. And then it just comes down to the third and final match for nosfa. This one's basically already as good as he's going to get. 2 frags that he's secured are pretty much everything he's been able to muster up in this one. There's no chance for a third. Rapha's trying to round it out of a nice even 20, but instead brings it to 18 for the meantime.
Yeah, the man doesn't have a stop button. You think he's going to mess around? Absolutely not. He's going to do everything in his power to collect as many frags as possible. And even though he's 100 points lead into the season so far, it's just ridiculous on what he can do. And he just, like I said earlier, has no stop buttons. Nearly 6,000 damage, 1,700 more than nosfa. And to be fair, why am I surprised? Nosfa did try to fight back on multiple occasions, and it's very easy to get yourself in a bit of a stump. But then Rapha, what can I say and what can I suggest, really? His kill was very impressive, and nosfa's definitely feeling the blows left, right, and center here.
Yeah, he is. He definitely is. But that's that one rounded out. At least it's been overthrown in the end. Rapha just going on a ridiculously high fragging rampage. We now move into the last map of the day and the last map of the series here. Blood Covenant. Nyx versus Visor, the yin and yang matchup. Both of their active abilities cancel out the other. It's at least a little bit more grounded of a game, but with the way that Rapha's been playing, still wouldn't be surprised to see this one be a pretty similar storyline, Harry.
Yeah, it's going to be the same storyline, I feel like. Don't get me wrong, at least nosfa has some kind of an advantage, but I don't think it matters at this point. This is a map. I know it's not the best in terms of Rapha's, but it's definitely one of the better ones which you can deal with, especially with the aggression of nosfa here. But even then, no, it's formidable to think now that Rapha didn't drop a map throughout the entire course of Stage 2 Finals, was it 13-0? And now he still hasn't dropped a map in every best of 3 series, or every 3 map series, shall we say, and it's week 8. You can't make that stuff up, can you?
It is just bizarre. It is just mad. I mean, that's the way these things go with Rapha. He is just incredible. and absolutely unstoppable. Blood Covenant, of course, being the last matchup between these two. We're just waiting to get underway with this to close this down. It is interesting. I think in reality, that from what we've seen, obviously, in the series here, there's no blips, there's no cracks in the pavement for Rapha. So this will most likely be the full 3-0 again. At that point, he's already, 110 points ahead of the second nearest person. So the likelihood of him making that even bigger, being like 170 points ahead, is pretty close on the horizon.
It's balmy to think that if he wins this 3-0, he's going 18-0. So far he's won, including stage 2 finals, 31 maps in a row, and no one in the NA scene has even taken a map of him. The only person I would say would do it, maybe Dahang, but it's not too late yet. nosfa still can take this map number 3. He does have the advantage with the visor against the Nyx, but even then, what more can he do? Like, he's going 13-0 currently. And it's incredible to watch, but it just makes you wonder, really, like, what more some of the people can do here. You have to do some thorough research and have a huge amount of game sense and initiative to even get anything going for yourself.
Oh, yeah. It is just crazy that's the way it's been going, and that he's still just getting more and more fuel in his tank the longer he goes on. Like, how long does that streak go on for? When are we going to see him finally start to cool off a little bit again? Or is he just here to stay in this demigod form? Because, I mean, the ideal thing is, right, obviously this is ramped up at the prime time for him, halfway towards the end of stage 3 now, still living it high of what we saw at the end of stage 2. If he can maintain that, Harry, there's only a couple more stages to go with this entire season of the Quake Pro League, and Rapha could have his eyes set on that belt for keeps.
Definitely. He could be breaking records, and we don't even know it yet as we head into the final map of the evening. And we'll have to see if nosfa can get any kind of comeback going. But as I say, that nosfa does manage to take him down straight away.
Well, that's certainly one way to start the game for nosfa, at least. If this is going to be the final hurrah, at least he's got that frag under his belt to start him off. Rapha dropping down, firing out the rockets early on to attempt to punish, as the LG's there, burning its way through early on. Oh! Rapha, he went for the cheeky play. He went up the bounce pad in the ghost walk, shrouded from vision. But he doesn't get the kill. Instead, he gets blown to smithereens by the railgun of nosfa and finds himself in a very early grave.
This is a very good start here for nosfa, as I may have just jinxed Rapha. It's 30-0. But even then, he's got a huge amount of time to play with, and he can definitely make a comeback from this. And as I say that, Rapha with a beautiful rocket and a rail to clean things up. And now this is Rapha's time. But even then, nosfa's been very aggressive from the get-go, just trying to corner him off. And almost managed to do so, as Rapha does need to restack. But nosfa does manage to get that heavy. Rapha needs to be a little bit more careful here of what he's going to do next.
Where am I?
Rockets being launched out. Rapha down to 14 HP. Railgun going across, connecting the sheer instant. nosfa picked up the Mega, so he is able to tank his way through it and stay alive, at least for the meantime. Rapha is on the move once more. Heads back over towards the railgun, holding towards the bridge. Gets a little connection off with the rockets that will be able to slow down the punishing push that's coming across from nosfa. He eventually uses his movement to evade and get away from him. And this is going to be our next full front door, a sort of turn to try and take the fight towards one another. Rapha with a ghost walk, using it as an aggressive move. Gets up close and personal, and LG's nosfa down.
So far, Rapha only on 41 HP. nosfa rockets in hand. Just be really careful what his next move is going to be, as Rapha is trying to rail him if he can. Misses 2, but he's going to try and go for the 3rd, which he does. And now he's going to step back for the time being to restack. So he will be getting the Mega for now. If he doesn't come up for another 14 seconds, so at least he's got the slight advantage if he wants to try and contest it in any way. But nosfa is looking to do the same, but he may have positional advantage, but he doesn't know Rapha's there. And Rapha very clean. Rocket from him. And now he's got it all to himself now, as he needs to try and contest that Mega as he pushes forward from rockets.
OG out, starting to shred his way through, as he will take him down once more, killing off nosfa. 4-3. Finally, Rapha is back in the lead at this point. Where does it go from here? Can it spiral out with control to actually give him the win on this map? Or will he be finally losing his win streak versus nosfa? Over here on Blood, as he darts towards that heavy. Needs the pickup, and he is going to be able to get it. At least building himself back up into a slightly better position going forward. 6 minutes left on the clock, and a 1 frag deficit is all that stands between them both.
Yeah, nosfa does, or has, lost the momentum which he once had earlier. Honest from Rapha, just trying to get up close and personal just to fake him out a little bit. nosfa almost fell for it as he's taken a huge amount of damage. But at least nosfa's going to try and fight for the heavy, but the tribal catches the play, gets close and personal, and clears him up with a nice rocket there. But nosfa just got to be a little bit more careful with certain engagements.
Doing well, at least keeping this one close. And we're still 5 minutes to go. There is a lot of potential. It is just going to be interesting to see if he can actually barely get through this one by the skin of his teeth. nosfa will go down, and this is where you start to worry. Rapha normally spirals out of control if you give him an opportunity, and that was the opportunity he needed. 3 frags ahead of nosfa now. It's only a matter of time before he starts upping the tempo, playing with that confidence. nosfa waits for the Mega. The push comes in. It's a little bit too slow from Rapha, but I don't think it's going to matter, as he's still leaving that encounter in the better position.
Oh, a direct rocket there just making matters worse, but it's going to peek out again from the same position. And Rapha just jumped down after him, but just lets him frag. He realised he made too many errors along the way and just gave him the kill. Kind of respectful in that kind of way. We've seen some players do it, and it can be a little bit more of a nuisance. You're kind of kicking yourself, really, when you're doing something like that. But, ooh, that was nice and cheeky. He almost managed to get the Mega. Sadly, it wasn't the case, as he's decided to increase his lead. It's funny how nosfa was up 3-0 to begin with, and now Rapha's up 9-3.
The shadows hide me.
4 minutes left, essentially, at this point. It's not a great spot to be in. This naughty Nyx of Rapha, with a railgun in hand, whizzing off those punishing shots, but it'll be the rail of nosfa to actually overthrow. He does punish them. Quite effective on that killing blow. And now they're starting to crumble a little bit, as it's a 10-4 split. nosfa, he can still make up this difference. It's definitely possible for him, Harry, but it just depends on the likelihood. And it's the longer that time passes as well, as Rapha never normally lets his guard down for long.
If it was the old spawn cycle, and maybe he would have had a chance, but I don't think Rapha is going to give it to him. But you're right, though. He's got 3 minutes. He definitely has the time to do it, but Rapha's not going to give him that opportunity, and he's going to continue the pressure and the aggression. He's not the sort of player who will sit back unless it's absolutely necessary. But look at that, though. Another great rail. nosfa just can't get anything going for himself here. And is already nailing beyond. Gets the LG out. When you finish him off, yes, he will with 25 HP left remaining. 2 minutes left. I think it's near impossible now.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think at this point it is basically as good as done. There just can't be too much that can come out of this, really, surely. Rapha looking for nosfa, firing out the warning shots, big connections coming through, both of them dancing around. The railgun shots are landing, and that is a ferocious repeat from Rapha to pretty much secure this one and make sure it is going to be in the bag for good. As the chance of nosfa winning this one is all but gone out the window.
It'll take a miracle at this point, but the way Rapha's playing now is just turning things into overdrive. Completely different from what we did earlier. And nosfa just doesn't stand a chance here. Just back and forth, baiting and switching, and again gets another frag to his tally. 15 and 4 now. It looks like a replica of the map earlier. But he's pushing straight in, but tries to do everything he can, but he can't, and he's now got a 12 frag lead. Only 50 seconds left on the clock. And it's just, once again, textbook work from Rapha.
It is just classic. At this point, it's absolutely vintage stuff from the man. And in the final 30 seconds of the game here, the likelihood of anything coming through from nosfa, other than maybe just one frag, is so minimum. Rapha with a railgun, though, is still looking to push this lead a little bit further towards the end. Drops down. nosfa's going for the gauntlet, but Rapha, he ain't got time for that.
You're right, it's got no time at all. 10 seconds left, and he's realised it's GG's all round. nosfa did his best, did have that 3-0 lead, but it didn't really get held for long, did it, Jackie? I think we expected Rapha to get some kind of comeback through. And there we have it. That is the final match of the evening. And of course, it will be Rapha winning that 3-0. And I had a little peek at the map wins and how many maps Rapha's won in a row. I think I had a little bit of a look at stage 2. And I think the last time Rapha lost was against Waz, and that was like week 7. So that was, I think that was his 40th map win in a row. I'm not 100%, but for my quick maths, it seems to be that way. So if that is true, and he's won 40 maps straight since week 8 onwards in stage 2 to now, then my goodness, like
that's a feat and a half. And that's actually, like, it's crazy, because obviously it comes down to the matter of, as you said before, has he made history, or is he in the process of it? Because obviously what he did at IEM was essentially groundbreaking. Now, obviously, if he's been doing an undefeated streak for that long, is he one of these players that has now basically reached a new height inside of Quake as an esport as a whole, Harry? That could be the interesting predicament we're in.
I'd be surprised if it's not, because that's a huge amount of wins. It doesn't matter what FPS you're talking about in the world of esports. That's actually a phenomenal amount. I've not heard of anything like it, to say the least. And he should be, well, of course, he's very proud of himself. But then again, that's why he's such a humble person in the esports scene. He doesn't care about 40 map wins in a row or anything like that. He just wants to continue to progress further as a player and improve himself. And that's why he's probably got such a huge win streak at this stage.
Yeah, he just aims to be the best. And I think he's proved that here again tonight. A fantastic series win for Rapha, adding even more points on top of his untouchable position that he was already in. And it is absolutely crazy. And what we can do for that, Harry, is actually take a look at how things looked before tonight's show. Obviously, when we had the standings from last week, we can have a look into how things shaped up then before we look a little bit into the future and see the updated standings, just to give everyone at home a little bit of a clear picture of how the show has affected things overall. Because, as we said, Rapha, he already had a ridiculous amount of points, 419 to be precise, as he was firmly in first place there. And this is the way the leaderboards looked before tonight's games, Harry.
Yeah, it was pretty balmy to say the least. You saw with Horan versus Tox. Horan gets his first series win, which is very important for him, but it needs to continue that for the remaining couple of weeks. I'm not too sure. I know he's at the bottom of the table in terms of the EU side of things with the stage 3 section of the relegation, but it depends on what he can do to try and claw his way back. Zeniku, again, was so close to closing out a series. It just wasn't to be. It keeps taking maps off most of the NA players, but it just doesn't seem to be helping himself much as he can't close things out. And you saw from there, did go 4-2 into map number 3. Effortless and Dramus. Dramus with a very dominant showing. I know Effortless I think he might have raised a little bit and just thought, do you know what? It's a 3-0 clear. Dramus had a 5 frag lead, and then I think he realised, but it might have been too little too late. And Avik and Sparty, another very good one. And Sparty taking it was a bit of a shocker. We've had definitely a few upsets today.
Yeah, we have. We've had some very interesting games with the way it's gone. It is ridiculous with how it has been played. Now, having a look back at that as well, obviously with Cypher in 11th place there, that's another one that could actually be affected based off tonight's games, which could be quite a spicy one. Razy as well. There's a lot of interesting results that have been able to scrape through that could potentially push them into a huge position going forward into the standings after this week's games, which I think we'll be able to have a look at in a minute here, Harry, and see how things are actually shaping up now, of course, versus the changes from this week.
Yeah, before we go to the leaderboard, I think we have to bring up some of the points we made earlier, like Cypher beating Kilson, but it was in dominant fashion. It wasn't like it was close at all. We didn't actually expect, we knew it was going to be some high fragging games, but we didn't expect Cypher to win 14-2 and on Crot to keep, and then win 12-4 on Molten Fall, sorry. And it's bizarre. It's very rare you'll see anything like that against a player like Kilson. So it does prove that Cypher's done more than just progressed. He's not just showed his consistency. He's actually got better. And I'm hoping that it continues that momentum going forward because it is very difficult sometimes to hold it week on week on week. Rapha has proved he can do it. So surely Cypher's probably thinking, well, surely I can do it too. It just depends on how things pan out. And Razy beating Kula on some of the large margins, like 17-5 to start off with. That was quite bizarre. And it all went to the wire when it was on Blood Run on the final map, which was, again, a close one. But Rapha, nosfa, just standard work with Rapha there, as you can see. And Dewey with a dominant performance there. Nice to see him slowly clawing back to the top of the NA side of the table.
Yeah, definitely pushing himself back up. And that is the recap from the games, of course, that we had that you've seen going past up on screen. So we should now be able to move into the updated leaderboards. As you can see, this is how things have shaped up after this week. Rapha is now firmly even further than what he was before this week on that top spot with 451 points, closely followed by Kilson with 319. Razy, only 9 points difference now between him and Kilson, which is quite a huge spot to be in. Obviously, he got that 3-0 victory over Cooler. That's why we've seen him jump so highly up in the standings.
Yeah, Razy managed to get that third place spot. He's slowly creeping up, and Dahang won't be too happy about that, but he's got some hard matches going forward. So if he wants that top 3 spot, he may have to win every match, considering Razy has been doing phenomenal over the past few weeks. Or throughout the course of the whole stage, he's dropped some maps here and there, but it's not really cost him the series, so he's been quite lucky. And Base, who was 10th or 11th previously, is now 7th, so he's been creeping up, which has been pretty good of him. And Cypher, who was 11th or 12th for 4, is now in the top 10 spots. So at least he's doing so much from what we've seen previously, and everything he's done in terms of his work ethic and grinding is paid off. And same with Tox as well, creeping into that top 10 area.
Oh, yeah. Big stuff across the board. A lot of interesting results came in today. We had a couple of upsets. We had a couple of spicy ones. Some very good games. Namely, of course, Game 6 and Game 7 were both bangers. Kilson versus Cypher was a fantastic affair. Good to see Cypher's been able to push himself back into that top 10 now off the back of it. So overall, Harry, I think it's been a good day of games.
It definitely has. It hasn't disappointed us in the slightest. We've had some matches which weren't the highlights or the matches to watch were actually turned out to be upsets. Game 6 and 7, and it just showed that Cypher's shown his old self once more, giving Kilson a huge run for his money, just dominating him in the 2 maps they played, and the 2 maps he actually won on compared to the one he barely lost on the Woken. But it's been a fantastic day. You couldn't really ask for more.
No, No, you couldn't. It was absolutely glorious. But of course, all good things must come to an end, and this never ending story has finally reached its final chapter. Thank you, however, everyone that has tuned in and watched the broadcast tonight. Obviously, we're getting towards the final few weeks of the Quake Pro League this stage, so everything that happens matters so much. If you had any thoughts on tonight's show, hit us up on Twitter with hashtag Quake Pro League. But for me, Harry, and the wonderful producer Reese from Face It, we are done and dusted for today. We do hope you've enjoyed the broadcast, and we'll be back next week to see the continuation of the Quake Pro League. But that's it, Harry. We're done.